So as James says, yeah, I'm this guy, and that's what I do. So I've sat in a number of various commercial roles for Solus. My academic background is in philosophy, so go figure. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about our work and basically focus in on a specific project we did with the Caledonian Sleeper. So I'll cover what we do very briefly, talk a little bit about immersive visualization per se in hospitality, and one of the key clients that helped get us into that, and then focus straight in on the Sleeper. What do we do? So the kind of big two-line strap. So that's the hyperbolic two-liner, but to summarize, hang on. That is basically what we do. But we do that across three specific divisions. We have a content division, the studios division makes all our kind of VR and AR and visualization content, an interactive division that creates all the VR environments and AR models, and an apps division which covers them, contains them all in interfaces and delivers them to end users. Sort of a little bit of a background on the business, kind of history, credibility dance, I suppose. We're just past 1,700 projects. We've been in business since 2000. We have more than 50 staff across 3 offices, Glasgow, London, Dubai, although we're pretty weapons-grade Scottish, most of us. With clients and projects all over the world, most of them not in Scotland, which is probably why our brand's a little bit quiet up here. We've got a dedicated immersive reality suite in London, so if you're down there, you can go and play with all the toys. And we have a sister company called Sublime that works specifically focusing on R&D projects in AR and VR technology. But a big change for us happened about 5 years ago. We've been working with what we would call immersive content for about 5 years at this point, which is quite a long time. The big change for us was games engine technology became available to us. So we were traditionally an architecture, engineering, construction, visualization company. Doing VR wasn't really in there. It was something we wanted to do, but the tools weren't available. When games engine technology, for want of a better word, became affordable, then we could take what we were producing in computer software that understood the objects as 3D and actually give people presence in them, and then place them in the real world as augmented content. So that allowed us to take design and experience visualization up a few levels, and with a ready-made client base who are ready to take that on and who have struggled to communicate to people buildings that don't exist or experiences that don't exist or places they can't be, we were very well positioned to kind of get into that. Over the last few years, the headsets have proliferated, so there's been a bit of an arms race out in Silicon Valley and billions and billions of dollars invested. So the cost is coming down whilst the quality is staying high. So these are, if they're not in your house already, they soon will be. And at the very bottom is something called a Magic Leap headset, which is the latest AR headset. The form factor for that is coming down, so soon it'll be back to Google Glasses and nice digital content, useful digital content on top of the real world. So a good case study for us, just in terms of generally using immersive content for hospitality and for travel, is the Radisson Group, the entire Radisson Group. So these images here were created using what we would call traditional visualization, CGI. So the playback media for that would be 2D. So you'd be producing 3D content, 3D software, but you're stuck with screens and print for trying to get somebody inside something and give them a sense of presence and excitement about it. Beautiful images, but we want to get the users, and Radisson want to get their users and their buyers and their developers into the new brand. Games engine technology has allowed us to create equitable quality content that you can navigate around in real time, that you can place in a headset and then proliferate across a diverse set of media. So there's a headset, but also behind that is what we would call an immersive reality portal, which is a custom product of ours, which is VR without the headset. So there is a little bit of shakiness about putting a headset on, VR here, people feel a little bit awkward and isolated. So this allows groups of people in 5 or 6 or more to experience VR content together. And this gives you a sense of where we're at. So this is games engine content, and that's the real hotel. So we're pretty much at the same place as what we could produce with traditional CGI. So there's no discernible difference. But that also allows us to produce lots of really interesting AR apps. So this is what we call a magic window app, and then outside we've got apps that have magic doors, so you can walk into a space using your iPad with it placed on the ground at scale. So you can walk the entire length of a hotel room that isn't there, anywhere you want to put it, and then all the way up to wireless VR in one-to-one space installations. So you reach out and touch the wall. You can sit on furniture and have 6 degrees of freedom. So That's a general look, how we've used it for one of our big keynote clients. But the Sleeper is a really, really interesting local case study. So we were match made by Highlands and Islands Enterprise with the Sleeper. The Sleeper's based up in Inverness. But we use it a lot, but the brand itself and the way the brand was perceived, we weren't all that familiar with. But it turns out everybody loves it. So it has this incredible body of emotion and romance behind it, and thousands of followers, and people are distraught if they think anything's going to happen to it. So it's almost like the overnight mail train. There's this emotional connection with it, and the internet is abound with these incredible romance images of the Highlands with the Sleeper going through it. So it obviously connects with people on a quite base level. So, and as I was looking at this, just a couple of days ago, this just appeared on the Highlands and Islands Voices Twitter feed. So one of the most tangible connections between London and the Highlands is the Sleeper, the mighty Caledonian Sleeper, and that's by no means an outlier. That's what all the content that's out there, people saying how much they love traveling this way. So when Serco took over the franchise, they had a huge kind of responsibility, because the rolling stock is pretty much at the end of its life, 45 years old, but even still people love traveling on it. So if they're going to go about changing it and inventing something new, revolutionizing it in their phrase, they have to do something that's really exciting and that really changes up how that experience works. So 140 million invested in a brand new fleet of trains. They're state-of-the-art, wonderful looking things, adding new accommodation types, so at the moment it's quite limited, and they're going in big for domestic and international tourism. So a lot of the business on the Sleeper at the moment is commuting. So it's people going up and down to London. There's a lot of tourism in the summer, but it drops off in the winter. So they're going international trade missions with Scottish Development International, trying to focus on exactly those themes, the romance, the excitement of travelling that way, and hassle-free. Obviously, they're strapping as you can get to London from Scotland and vice versa, and overnight when travel when you're sleeping. From a product marketing point of view, there's a number of challenges, like a lot of tourist destinations and hospitality places. The big web booking window, you're running a long sales cycle that you're trying to fill 12 months in advance. The new trains are actually built in Spain, and they're stored somewhere that the public can't go. So you can't, at the moment, they're at Palma-D getting commissioned, so you can't go to them, you can't get to them, which makes it challenging for them to get nice photography of it, to take their staff for familiarization, and to train them in these new train sets. So it's a complex, unusual product to describe as well. So trying to describe a sleeper train to somebody and give them a sense of being there just with words or pictures is kind of difficult. So lots of accommodation, loads of destinations, and it's kind of unique. So it's an unusual product. So kudos to the Sleeper. They did take a bit of a punt on when they met us, taking their entire marketing approach and using VR and AR as centerpieces of it to try and increase their reach and create engagement. We created a VR model as the base piece, and from that VR model, you're about to see we made a long list of differentiated content which they've used in all kinds of engagement contexts. But the VR piece is the main one and the first one that we produced. So they can take it anywhere. They have a headset. They have a laptop that we made, a couple of them, and they take them out on the road with them. They use it all the time. It was used first and foremost. They needed it for staff training and familiarization before they ever showed it to the public. It's like, what's this going to look like? Get the people who are running the 45-year-old trains at the moment. The new ones are coming. Here's what they're going to be like, to create excitement and engagement for them. When they've taken it out to customers and to the public, they've got an incredible response. And as you saw with, I think, the Expedia app, you can teleport in it as well, so you can get around the space really quickly. It means you don't need to have 6 degrees of freedom. You can stand still. So what's the reaction been like? Well, look at her face. So, so this is a pretty standard kind of response. So that, oh wow, there I am. And you get a we have it outside, so you can come and have a go, but you get a sense of the space, you get a sense of how narrow it is, you get exactly what it's like being on the existing train, but with all of the new bits and pieces. So very, very successful. So from their point of view, they're delighted with it. So this is from Kim, who's spent a lot of time out there in the world, giving the experience to people. But it's the quality, it's how real it feels, how engaged they feel, how much presence they have in the space, which again speaks to the level of quality we can produce with games engines at this point. We also produced a custom augmented reality application, which we do have outside as well. Strictly limited number of business cards, so come and get them. It's public. You can get that in the App Store and Play Store, and again, ultra portable. They've handed out thousands of these cards to people. You can drop into 360 views of the cabins from the same model that we produced in VR using it. It's kind of interactive, participatory, novel, and it's extremely effective. People take it away and remember, that's the sleeper thing that I got, and hold on to it in a way that they wouldn't if it was just in a brochure or they got it somewhere else. So, and they've handed them out at all kinds of events. So it looks a bit like that. Come and have a look at it. Obviously, try to show AR on screen doesn't really work, but they again are delighted with it. So Rhiannon's their business development manager. She's out in the world, out all over the world at the moment, trying to drum up tourism business with this, and she finds this an incredible tool. So again, this all came from the same VR model. We produced VR, we produced AR, and we produced a big long sequence of images. So we can render out traditional imagery that's for 2D playback and animation. So we produced 2 animations for them from the same core piece of work. So I'll have these up on stand as well. You want to come and have a look at them, but just rattle through them just now. Beautiful looking images of equitable quality to what we would produce out of a non-interactive or non-immersive format. So let's go through them. So this is a little piece that that went into the reality portal. So we've run 2 large public activations at Glasgow Central and at Waverley. So I'm not going to play this all because it's 3 minutes long, but this was spherical. So this is a flat version of it, but this went into the reality portal and used all the 3D space so that you've had this feeling of being inside the product, but also gave you the kind of background of the service itself and the locations. You know, there's lots of Visit Scotland content in there, and this has been used pretty widely. So, but from that we get kind of things like that. So you can put it in the middle of Central Station, you have this incredible visual instrument that people will wander into, and we had this over 2 days, and it was extremely popular, so thousands of people passed through it. And that's the kind of idea of what, so they can set up a little point of sale in front of it, and you can easily fit 5 or 6 people in together, have a shared VR experience, have a shared experience of the content, and it gives them an understanding of the product that they just would not get from 2D media, from 2D interaction. And the police turned up, so it's nice to get these kind of things. So there's a little piece of ET here from that we got from...
Passengers using the Caledonian Sleeper service between Scotland and London are getting a virtual reality preview of the new sleeping cars being introduced later this year. The £150 million fleet will come into service in October and will offer a variety of accommodation from seats to double rooms with ensuite facilities. As Mike Edwards reports, they're a far cry from sleepers of old.
The virtual reality tour, on show in a special pod on the concourse of Glasgow Central Station, shows the range of sleeping car configurations available in the new trains. From seated accommodation to single and double bunk bed berths to ensuite double cabins, the new coaches mark major changes to the traditional sleeping cars.
You know, a shower and everything that. Didn't get that in the old sleepers, so there's a lot of improvements in it. So hopefully it's successful and it runs to time, and that's the main thing.
It just looks like a really nice experience, really different, and sometimes you just want to rest as well, don't you? It's a long journey.
Good morning, we're there.
We had a good trip by sleeper.
This is how overnight travel from London to Scotland used to look. 1950s designed sleeping berths comprising single or double bunk beds. If you needed to use the bathroom during the night, it involved a traipse down the corridor to the vestibule. Those coaches were replaced in the 80s by the rolling stock still in use today. They still have bunk beds and are still without showers or toilets in the compartment. Now 75 new coaches have been built to replace them and are currently under test for the Fort William, Inverness and Aberdeen, and Glasgow and Edinburgh to London routes.
So yeah, 50 style marketing as well, but then how do you go about marketing a service like that? You have to shoot video, or you just give people stuff in print. So we also took it to Edinburgh, and the police turned up again, so I'm trying to push this as a strap to them. You know, Caledonian Sleeper popular with law enforcement, but they're not buying. But so that, and there will be we expect to have, when the actual trains arrive or go into service rather early next year, there'll be further kind of VR tour events and activations. So just in terms of quick look at some stats on it, now he's having had Dan up ahead of this, it's probably not quite his numbers, but these are well out the ordinary for both Solus and the Sleeper. So 3,000 visitors in the Glasgow Central event, and well above 90% satisfaction with the VR experience itself, and well above 90% of them said that the experience would make them more likely to book a trip on the new trains or on the Sleeper per se. Excellent reach across our Facebook and LinkedIn. Again, these are way higher than we would normally expect for 2 days and 3 posts, and again on Twitter as well. And they had a huge reach on media and web. They think probably 750,000 opportunities to view it across various media, and a big 80% spike in the web traffic. So it works. That's it. Thanks very much. We're upstairs. Come and ask us any questions. Have a look at the content.